morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the prices of the special arts of all of these Tag Team GXs, or at least the most recent ones. You see, a shop over in Japan has gone and posted their prices, so we can take a look at which ones are the most sought after and which ones are likely to end up being the most expensive. Now, a quick side note, I did a video like this recently, I'll pop a link in the description, but I didn't make it clear enough. These are the prices that the shop is paying for the cards. So if you were to buy them at the shop, you'd be paying somewhere in the line of 30 to 50% more than they are paying for them, because shops have to mark up so they can actually make a little bit of profit. And the most expensive one we see here is the special art of Arceus and Dialga and Palkia. That is the most expensive, the most valuable, the most sought after of all of these special rares. Now, it's coming in around about 3,000 yen, which you're talking $28, about £21. Now, what is interesting here is that cards in Japan are generally quite a bit cheaper than they are over here. So you're talking like $40 card over in Japan, which is really, really high. It'll make more sense as we get to some of the other cards. Why is this such an expensive, sought-after card? It is seeing a ridiculous amount of play over in Japan. It is a phenomenal card, which is just popping up in so many different random decks. Now, of course, if you're in the expanded format and you've got double dragon energy, then it just becomes kind of silly over the top good, because a GX attack for 1 metal energy says that you do 30 more damage for all of your attacks for the rest of the game. Then if you add a water energy on there, you take an extra prize for every KO you take for the rest of the game, which is a little bit over the top dumb good. But even outside of that, it's just seeing play of a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, we even saw a deck where we literally used the Victini from Unbroken Bonds, also Unified Minds, to get it up and rolling and played it with Keldeo. It was a bit weird and a bit awesome. Now, two which are probably a little bit closer to home, ones that we are probably expecting a little bit more, are the special arts of Mewtwo and Mew and Reshiram and Charizard that come in a little bit lower at 2,800 yen. We're talking about $26 and about £20. These are the two best decks in the format. Now, there is a third one we need to talk about, we'll get to there in a minute, but frankly, these are very, very good cards. Reshiram and Charizard doing 230 for 4 energy, plus the outrage attacks, so if you're not one-hit KO'd, you can hit them back, and of course, let's not forget we've got Welder to accelerate the energy here, and we've got the makings of an extremely good deck. Mewtwo and Mew also relies on Welder, but is not quite so tied to fire Pokemon. Mewtwo and Mew, basically what you do is just play a whole bunch of different GXs, and you can copy the attack of any GX either in your discard pile or in play. EXs as well, incidentally, but we generally use it for GXs. And we do use it to copy Reshiram and Charizard, but you've also got evolved non-fire Pokemon, like the second Solgaleo that does damage while accelerating energy, like the second Dragonite, for instance, which just for 5 energy does 270. Those really are probably the two best decks in the format, so it shouldn't surprise you that they end up being so expensive. Now, if they are so gosh darned expensive, and they're not as expensive as the Creation Trio, you do need to ask yourself quite how good that card is going to end up being. And as time goes by, I just feel dumber and dumber for not putting it on my top 20 for Cosmic Eclipse. I didn't forget it. I deliberately kept it off the list for other cards. I'm starting to feel that that might be just a little bit dumb. Though to be fair, the artwork on that is so cool and unique, it's kind of like the Shattered Glass Hollow for the Legendary Bird Trio. There is an element of it's actually so cool that that will drive the price up. Now, the big omission here from the most expensive ones is Pikachu and Zekrom. You see, Pikachu and Zekrom is actually sitting there rocking 1,700 yen, which comes in at, like £12 and $16. It's nowhere near the others. And the reason is, and I know that a lot of players have already figured this out, it is not as good post-Cosmic Eclipse. It's just not. There are other decks that can fare against it better, and it is extremely reliant on GX Pokemon, which means that Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff does a lot to control it. Now, that doesn't mean that Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff is going to completely make it not viable anymore, but it is to say that it's going to make it significantly worse. My apologies. We'll get to that card in a moment, but that's why Pikachu and Zekrom isn't so expensive. It's just not as good. Now, after the ones we've mentioned, we've actually got 2,100 yen. Well, there's three really in quick succession here. So 2,100 yen, we've got Charizard and Braixen. And Charizard and Braixen, 2,100 yen, you're talking in the ballpark of £15 and $19. But again, you can add 30 to 50% because this is the price the shop is buying at. They'll be selling at a bit of a markup. And essentially, this isn't a deck in and of itself. It's not necessary, but it is good. It will be played in Charizard and Reshiram decks. Reshiram and Charizard even. It'll be played in Mewtwo and Mew decks. But it's not really a deck in and of itself, it's a fun little tech. The main attraction here is 4 fire energy, 180 damage, and you get to search your deck for any free cards and put them straight into your hand. So it gives you that extra added consistency. And then we see at 2,000 yen, so you're looking just a teensy bit lower, you're talking kind of $18 and £14. We've got Gardevoir and Sylveon. And Gardevoir and Sylveon, very simply, is just a really good deck. It's a deck that just doesn't go away. You play it really with no abilities, and you play it with Green's Exploration, so you can search for any 2 trainer cards and put them in your hand, and you play it with stuff like Super Scoop Up and Mixed Herbs, and then those Fairy Charms, if you so wish, to give yourself immunity from certain Pokemon. It's a very good card, it's why it keeps its value. The one that really surprises me here is the fact that we've got Umbreon and Darkrai rocking 2,100 yen, which as previously mentioned we're talking £15, $19, but Mega Sableye and Tyranitar is coming in at 700 yen, which is about £5 and $6.50. And they're generally played together in these Dark Box decks with Weavile. Now, my explanation I can essentially give you is that Greninja and Zoroark really is now the centre of this deck in the expanded format, and in standard it's not particularly good. Now, Mega Sableye and Tyranitar is still good, but maybe Umbreon and Darkrai just sees a bit more play in those expanded decks. I'll be honest with you, they both should be played in them. There might genuinely just be an element here that Darkrai and Umbreon are really cool. Certainly in terms of the lists that I've been seeing and the success of decks that I've been looking at, I'm not seeing an obvious difference here. Taking a look at the deck, which is, I called it the new best deck in expanded, and I meant it, I'll link it in the description, they didn't actually play either of these, but they did play the Creation Trio instead. So I am slightly surprised. That is the one thing on this list that does get me, is that those cards are so disparate in terms of their value. Now we also see here Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff, which is coming in at around about 1,800 yen, which to put it in our currencies is about £13 or $17. This, again, it's really a one or two of, which is why it sees so much play but isn't quite at this higher value. It's a phenomenal card, 60 damage base plus 60 more for each GX that your opponent has in play. It is flat out great, but it's a one or two of in deck, so the price never gets too high. Of course, we could then go, well, hang on a second, what about Charizard and Braixen? How is that so high? And the answer very simply is, it's a Charizard card. Even though it sees less play than Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff, Charizard cards are always going to be a little bit more inflated because Charizard cards are just obscenely collectible and popular. Shout out to the Baby Trio. It's a card that we all love because for 16 energy, you shuffle your opponent's entire bench into their deck, and then you get the next turn. So if you can knock out their active, you literally just win the game right there and then. It's a wonderful card, but it's not actually terribly playable. It's a fun little gimmick deck, but it's not going to see a huge amount of success. So we see it at kind of £7 or $9. Still a fun card, but not attracting a huge amount of money here. And then we need to give just some shout out to Piplup and Blastoise. I love this card. It's one of my favourite cards in Cosmic Eclipse, and the artwork is flat out adorably, wonderfully, brilliantly great. But unfortunately, it's just not as good as some of the other cards on the list. Comes in at 700 yen, which is like £5 or $6.50. It's not a terribly expensive card. Now, this one does surprise me a little bit as well, because actually Blastoise and Piplup has been seeing a fair amount of success over in Japan. It got top 4 in a tournament with like 1,600 people. But Japan are just about to get ready for their rotation. Aqua Patch is going to be rotating out, and it will be a lot weaker post Aqua Patch. So maybe that's part of the reason. This is still a little bit lower than I would expect. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. I know this is Japan, but the point is, even though they've been in a slightly different format to us, they are heading into the same format as us, and the values in Japan should give us a really good indication of the relative values over here. The numbers are going to be a little bit higher, but you should still expect, for instance, the alternate art Mewtwo and Mew to be quite a bit more expensive than the special art of Pikachu and Zekrom. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me which of these cards you have. Tell me what you think of the artwork. Tell me if you think any of these are too high or too low. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.